Boker Tov, everybody. Thank you for coming. We're learning this month of Kislev, sponsored by the Gantavniks, in honor of Eliana's Bat Mitzvah and our Chai anniversary, by the Aron family, in memory of Levi ben Yosef, anonymously for the Refuah Shteina of Shoshana Yona Bas Eru, by the Finns for the Atzlacha and Shmira over our Tzadikim, our Chayalim, and for the Refuah Shlema of those that are injured, David Netanel ben Ayala Ahuva, Tzvi David ben Tamar Malya, Ro'i Chaim ben Meirav, Achia ben Yael Chaya, Tov Shmuel ben Avia Nava, and Avram Yaakov ben Dvora Pnina. And by the Silver family, in memory of Bat Yafega Bat Yisrael, and the month of Kislev also sponsored by Andrew, a.k.a. Raziel Chaim and Leah Hirschkowitz, in memory of Andrew's Saba, Shlomo Leah ben Rafael Gedalia. Andrew, where's Andrew? Which one's Andrew's Ma'ima? You're here.
I'm here.
Joyce, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, welcome. This is your Abba.
Ken.
Oh,
Yes.
wow. It's a schus to learn in his memory.
Thank you.
And the week is sponsored anonymously for the Limud Torah of this week and by Lisa Bloomberg in honor of Ike's birthday. All right? There's a lot going on, Baruch Hashem. I just want to mention a few things. First of all, I want to say thank you to everyone who came out last night to hear the Torah of the Biala Rebbe, of the son of the one who we've been learning from. When the Rebbe came into the office before we were learning, I showed him before he gave over his Torah, I showed him what we were learning. He couldn't believe it. It's like these things don't happen in most places. He was like, "Met? Really?" We had an amazing conversation. It was very, very special. Further, and just as important, I say this to empower us. That's my reason, just to empower us. Every single day, not like a few times a week. Every single day, I receive messages from people from all over the world. Every single day, that are sitting around this table. They are. They're literally sitting around this table. They could already recognize some of your voices through the questions that are asked. And that they feel that they're part of this family. They feel like they're part of this mishpacha of Shirat David and the learning that we're doing here. And it's as much as it's like, it's such a beautiful thing, it's such an incredible thing, it also is like a big achrayut, it's a big responsibility. People always ask me, how do you feel with everything? I say, I feel more and more responsible. Just responsible. And that's why Bezrat Hashem next week on Wednesday and Thursday, and some of you have seen that we've sent out a mailer that we're doing, some messages, that we're doing a 36-hour campaign to Bezrat Hashem enable the continuation of all the thousands of hungry neshamas that feel like that are part of what we're doing and would like to be part of what we're doing without them even knowing it. And that's why what we need is, and it's almost like, I'm almost like feeling like maybe I should be like there should be a psak, like a psak halacha. But what we need is everyone to show up and everyone to feel like you're running the show, that this is your game, this is your class, this is your mahalach of life, and to join us and become an ambassador for this campaign, to represent and to help us spread this light, because I believe be'emunah shlema, with complete faith, that Hashem is sending through us something that many neshamas need. As simple as it is. So more instructions and mailers will be sent out in order to join this and to become an actual ambassador. A shagrir and shagrira, take it on with simcha, with pride, knowing that this is like a very easy, I don't want to call it sales pitch, but an empowering moment, that you could really be part of helping a few broken, or not even broken, but good people that don't know yet that they're broken. We're all broken, but they don't even realize yet that they're broken. To taste from the sea of Torah that Hashem is sending our way. I want to empower you with it because it's very chashuv. I'm not going to be here Sunday morning. We won't be here Sunday morning, but I wanted to make sure that we already get that out now to go weiter and go very, very strong, and to do it b'simcha also, and to do it with pride. Mamash, with holy pride. Okay, now, what we began learning last week, and it was mentioned last week in Shul as well, and a few other times, with something very important. We're going to talk mainly today outside the text, just a little bit of text, but mainly outside the text. And we spoke about how it works that the gates of Shamayim, the gates of heaven, seem to be cracked wide open through the davening of women. It's bichlal been the topic from day one. But specifically over here to focus in on the qualities, what it is about the tefillah of a woman, besides the fact that there's dema'ot, besides the fact that there's tears, that seem to be gate openers. What we spoke about last time was that a woman's basic ratzon is to do what Hashem wants. What's the ratzon of Hashem? That's all they think about. What does Hashem want? And when you're constantly thinking about what Hashem wants, you're not stuck in the game of, I want to make sure I'm doing all of my obligations. Because you want to do much more than just obligations. As we spoke about so many times, that's the difference between mitzvahs aseh she'azman grama and mitzvahs aseh she'ein azman grama. Time-bound mitzvahs that men are obligated to do, as opposed to non-time-bound mitzvahs, the mitzvahs that women are not obligated to do. So how could it be that there's so many mitzvahs that women are doing that they're not obligated to do? It's because you're not just trying to come and say, hey, look, I did the right thing. You want to go weiter, you want to go more. You have this midah, it's innately inherent in every woman. And we began speaking about this last week. What we're going to be seeing today is how powerful that strength is of going extra, always extra. And this is not a shiur to tell you to do something that you're not doing already. It's to point out what may not be obvious to you, but is obvious when you zoom out and look at the picture of avodat Hashem, of serving Hashem like a woman as opposed to a man. Like I always say every single shiur, bemet, the point over here is not to come down on the man and say, wow, you're so low. It's just taking a look at what Hashem had in mind with an amazing, brilliant way through which women were created. And it's a very important avodah. And the natural outcome of looking at it like this will be, again, a deeper sense of appreciation and a value, to look at the inherent value of what it is that you're all doing. None of you have to be here. There's no mitzvah or chiyuv for you to be sitting here right now. None of you. You realize that. I had to be here. Not because it's my job. I had to be here an hour and a half ago. I had to. I would love to say, and even if I didn't have to, I would for sure show up to join a bunch of tired men in the morning and put on tefillin and talis and daven. Alavai. I had to. You don't have to. I just want to add, there are women that daven every single morning at the minyan. I'm sure they do else in the afternoon, other places. There are women that daven here every single morning. On the weekdays, it's zemashu. Bemet. It's something very, very, very big. To me, it takes whatever the concept of minyan was to the next level. Yes, you don't have to. Yes, you're not counted in a minyan, but the sound of that minyan, the voice of that minyan, the energy of that minyan goes mala, 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 as we've seen before with the tzaddikim that wouldn't even daven in a shul, that didn't have an Ezras Nashim, a women's section. Okay. So now we're going to go forward. In the pages that you have in front of you, it's Daf Kuf Chaf Aleph. I believe it's the second page that you have. Daf Kuf Chaf Aleph in the middle. We're going to be speaking about something that obviously is a sensitive thing. That for each person it's very different. I just want to put it out there that Hashem should open up the gates of birth. Healthy babies, Bezrat Hashem, for all Bnot Yisrael in the right time. Baruch Hashem, there have been 2 births in the shul this week, which is very special. Brandon and Elisa Beer had a baby boy, and Shalom Mordechai and Nachama Benstein had a baby girl yesterday. And Bezrat, and there's more on the way. Not from them, but I mean, eventually. I mean, yeah, exactly, like there will be, yeah. Take breathers for that, but there's more on the way. Baruch Hashem, b'shat tolah mutzlachat. So the Rebbe is now going to be, the Biala Rebbe is now going to say, you want to understand this whole concept of the extras and where it comes from? He says, look what happens. Anu ro'in et kocham shel nashim b'davar zeh. You see in the second part of the page. We see the strength of women in this inyan, כי הנה אחד מעיקרי שליחותן בעולם הזה, להביא ילדים לעולם. Women were sent down to this world to bring children into this world. Even though אף שדבר זה כרוך בצער ירחי לידה, it's not exactly 9 months of feeling like you're in a spa. It's 9 months of צער ירחי לידה. חבלי לידה וצער גידול בנים, and it doesn't stop after, and it's not like once the kid is born, it's like, now we did this mitzvah, and now it's just gewalt. It's just so beautiful. That's not the situation either. שאיננו דבר קל כלל וכלל, it's not an easy thing. שבשביל כך צריכותן לוותר מעצמן ומנוחיותן, in order to take care of this next shlav, in both stages in life, the birth and the raising of children, women have to give up of themselves and of their comfort zones all the time. ואף על פי כן עושות את כל זאת באהבה, בשמחה וברצון, כמו שהיה הדבר מובן מאליו. Now, let's be real, it's not always be'ahava, beratzon, besimcha, but in the bigger picture it is. In the general picture, it is. And the most important thing that he writes here is that v'ze lo muvan me'elav, and it shouldn't be taken for granted at all. I don't think that he's hoping that men are learning this in order to appreciate their wives more. I think that this be'emet is a sefer for women to understand that which you have such a natural approach to is not a natural, it's not a normal thing. Lo muvan me'elav, it's not a given. Well, of course I would, it's my child. You're a human being with needs. To just keep on like giving up of your needs of sleep, of food, of in many cases, there's some families I speak to sometimes. Hashem should bless them with parnasa. You know, the money that's in the house is very, 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 very limited. And sometimes there'll be mothers that need certain things of lavush or clothing or other things. And it's not even a shaila, it's not even a question that if they think the kid may need something, where does the money go to first? So we'd be like, no, that's natural. It's maybe natural, maybe it's a motherly instinct, but it's still lo muvan me'elav. It's still not to just be taken for granted because that's the right thing to do. And that's an important thing to point out. ולא זו בלבד, it's not just that, שהן ממלאות את שליחותן במילואה, it's not that they fulfill their shlichus fully, במה שהן טורחות כל חייהן בהבאת נפשות לעולם ובטיפול צאצאים, that they bring children to the world, then they take care of those children, ללא הרף non-stop, וכאשר הן מבשלות ואופות ודואגות לכל צרכיהם ורצונותיהם, and they take care of everything. כי מוסיפות הן על כך עוד כהנה וכהנה, they add more and more and more all the time. שהרי מביאות נפשות רבות לעולם יותר מחיובן. This is an important thing. How do we know that a woman is so connected to not trying to be yotzei mitzvahs? Because if you want to say, like yotzei means to be to fulfill your obligation of a mitzvah. Lefi kimat kol hadeos, according to kimat all the poskim, when is a woman yotzei, even though it's not even her mitzvah, it's on the right, we learned this already, but when would it be considered that the woman is part of fulfilling a mitzvah of bringing children into the world? Lefi rov hadeos, according to most deos. When are you finished?
If you have a boy and a girl.
Boy and a girl. I remember when we were on 4 girls before our fifth, our son came into the world, I would always have these conversations when people would ask me, "Oh, how many kids do you have?" I said, "Oh, we have 4 princesses." "Oh, you're not nervous?" People always say, "And what about the mitzvah?" Like, what do you mean? It's like, you have to have a son too. And so people meant well. I think it's pretty weird. It's a pretty weird state. I don't know. Yeah, that's cute, but that's pretty weird. I have a good friend. Alone. They have 4 daughters, and he would also get those comments all the time. And he would always answer back. He says, "Brother, how do you know that in my last Gilgul I didn't have 4 sons? And now this is my yotzei, right?" What he's saying over here is that let's say you want to really be makpid that you're yotzei, right? So your yotzei would mean a boy and a girl. Okay, lefi rov hadeos. But that's how we hold. You'd be done after 2. Let's say the first 2. Let's say you had twins, boy and a girl. Or let's say you had one, right? Let's say, lo dama. It's an interesting thing. Let's say the first 2, like you had a girl, then a few years later a boy, or right? But that's not even our approach. And again, with each family it's different. That's why I'm saying don't take anything here personally. We're talking about a general outlook towards a mitzvah. Of course, there are certain people that they just can't handle, and no one is judging anything. But on the spectrum, when we look at things in the grand scale of things, we see, wait a second, Zemashu, look at this. And a woman already knows, let's say after going through 2 births, it's not exact, like we said, this is not 9 months in a spa. This is avodah. This is avodah that a man could never, ever, like, I hate, there was such a funny but stupid thingy where they showed, like, a man wanted to feel the pain of Braxton Hicks. Did you see this?
Yeah, they put them on the ends.
So those don't hurt? I thought that's the peak. What is that? What's before that? What's before that? At the end. Like the say, whatever it is. They transition, wait, whatever. The guy's sitting there, I don't know what they plug into him. You saw that?
The tens.
She's pressing. And he thinks he's such a gibor that for a few seconds he's experiencing pain that women have for God knows how long. It's a joke. A man wouldn't accept to do that for another second in his life voluntarily. But he feels such a gibor that he went through a few minutes of going through it, right? A woman knows consciously, even though she doesn't remember the actual feeling of those pains during while it's happening, she still goes and says, more. Yeah, we're gonna have more kids. We're gonna have more of this. Where does this come from? Now, it's an interesting thing that when you look at, I saw this recent documentary about population of Europe, and that Europe is mamish going to become a full-on Islamic empire in the next decade. Why? But why? What's the Indian?
Because they're stopping.
A Yeluda. The average of European family is 1.5%. Huh? 1.2. And they're having Simcha v'sasan. So the fact that by As Yidlach, we're always embrace this mitzvah with such an excitement and an awe of Bezrat Hashem, more children all the time. Where does it come from? Bless you. So look how he brings in the second to bottom line. Ki mosifoten al kach od kaena v'chaena, שהרי מביאות נפשות רבות לעולם יותר מחיובן, כי ברצונן הטוב, they bring more than they have to, because from their goodwill, בוחרות הן לעשות לפנים משורת הדין. They always try to go above and beyond the letter of the law. If we hold that the letter of the law is 2 children from each, right? A boy and a girl. It's always about going above and beyond the letter of the law. Like I said, no one is, and this is the energy we see in the world of what holy women's leadership and holy women's power. Not the shtuyot that Baruch Hashem is, I think, dying out in the world, I hope, like through all the stuff we said that is not the emes, not the truth when it comes to women's rights and leadership, but the real women's rights and leadership. Where is it coming from? Going above and beyond the letter of the law. This is what you have. It's inherent in you. The Kol Ze Mareh Et Ma'alat HaIsha, this shows how great of a level a woman is on. שמסורה ונאמנת היא לעשות שליחותה בעולם מעל ומעבר לחיובה. Again, always going above and beyond what she's obligated to do. ועל דבר זה אמרו, and this is what Chazal, I say, just said, בזכות נשים צדקניות נגאלו אבותינו ממצרים. In the merit of righteous women, our fathers were redeemed we were all redeemed from Egypt. כי בזכותן בני ישראל paru v'rabu b'mitzrayim, because in their merit of the women were bringing more and more children into the world. How do we know that? Because there's a pasuk that says before, Uvnei Yisrael paru vayishretzu vayirbu vayatzmu me'od me'od. The pasuk says, while we're living in such a state of being under paro, what are the women busy doing? Above and beyond, more and more and more. People always think it's because they're emunah, and I'm sure that's part of it, but it comes from a place of that they went even above and beyond whatever would have been. Listen, if a woman said, I'm not bringing children into this world, when they were under Paro's leadership, are you going to tell them anything? No. I always tell you that one of the biggest wonders I have about my grandmother and my grandfather, from our grandmother and with my father's side, is that each of them were married and each of them had children before the war, and they were all killed, the spouses and the children. They meet in it must have been 44, towards the end of the war, and they decide, I don't understand this, to get married. They have my uncle January 1945 and my father three years later in November of 48. Where does it come from? Where did this come from? They already were yotzei chiyuvim of bringing children into the world. And also, what kind of world did they know of? And yet they still are plugged into something. I'm saying over here, my grandmother, Alea Shalom, Chaya Bat Batya, they're plugged into something that's above and beyond anything that anyone can tell them. This was the same situation of the women that were living in Mitzrayim. Uvnei Yisrael paru vayishretzu vayirbu vayatzmu bim'od me'od.
Shani Kerrigan, a couple of years ago, when she was here, she brought a midrash that said that the women, just like piggybacking on what you said about how amazing they were, would go and meet their husbands while they were working to give them chizuk, but also that's where they met and they understood the importance of growing their family and giving their husbands chizuk that they can continue going.
Beautiful.
No, and the mirrors that they use in the
The mirrors, yeah.
Nachon.
And used in the Beit HaMikdash.
Nachon. So,
I think
yeah.
a lot of women also felt this after October 7th, like the
Betach.
world was so dark. you know,
Betach.
But then how many babies were born after that?
Crazy. Just in our shul alone, the amount of births that have been post October 7th, mamash, it's really unbelievable. And we know what world we're bringing them into, and yet it's coming from such a high divine place, such a high and divine place. So the second line over here, in the second paragraph, K'mavur b'Gemara, the Gemara teaches, the mitzvah zo shel pru urvu meviya geula la'olam. This mitzvah of pru urvu brings redemption to the world. K'ari amru Chazal, the Gemara in Yevamos says, listen, this is a really fascinating line in the Gemara. Ein ben David ba ad sheyechalu kol haneshamot shebaguf. Mashiach comes when all the neshamas, well, let's explain it. I want to make sure we get it right. Dahainu, shekol haneshamot, that all the souls, shenivru misheshes yimei bereshis, that were already created from the 6 days of creation, yavou la'olam. They're all finally come to the world. Like there's so many neshamas, right? Infinite amount of neshamas. I don't know how many neshamas, but Mashiach will come when they've all come down and have set themselves in a body, right, and done their thing in this world. That's what the Gemara says. So chashivus mitzvah, and then Mashiach will come when they all finally come down. We have to bring down more and more until it's done. Chashivus mitzvah zu ki hi naaseh b'mesirut nefesh. It's a mitzvah that's done with mesirut nefesh. V'davar zeh mevi geula l'klal Yisrael. This brings redemption to all of Am Yisrael. That's why every single Jewish baby that's born, every single one that's born, just by its mere existence, and just by the decision and the acceptance and the ratzon of a baby coming into the world, a woman has to understand, and maybe she knows this intuitively, I'm sure she does. The man has to, of course, understand this as well, but the man is not the one that's going through anything regarding bringing a child into the world. They're involved for a few minutes after the baby is born, but besides that, we know where it's holding. Is that every time a child comes into the world, you know what you actually did? You made that distance between us and Mashiach shorter. That's what the Gemara is saying. So you could say, listen, whatever, the Torah says to me, the obligation is 2 babies, a boy and a girl. But you're thinking to yourself, is that what I care? Is that what's more important to me? To make sure I'm yotzei a chiyuv? Or to live in the context of what's going on in the world? And doing things with the consciousness of bringing the geula closer. Now, there's one more important midah, and this is really what I wanted to get to today, because this is what we referenced on Friday night in Shul, and because we're still in the parshias of this, it always stems, it always feels really good when it connects together. Do you see the next word? It's one of the hardest words to embody. Vatranut. Vatranut, to be mevateret. Levater. We always want our children, the bigger kid is the one that's mevater. That is, why would you say this? In English? Huh?
Gives it up.
Yeah, but giving up, it doesn't mean I give up.
Give in.
No, give in? No.
Acquiesce.
What?
There's a word.
Acquiesce. Relinquish. Okay.
To accept the situation as is.
And to give, there's got to be a better word for this. It's true what you're saying. There's got to be, I think it has to do with, it has to do with context more than anything. To be mevater.
We say like share, but let it go. It's not
Let
really
it go. I think this is a contextual concept over here, especially with what we're doing over here. There was a commercial growing up. The commercial said it was a commercial for Zeirut Badrachim. Those that grew up in Israel remember this. There was a commercial about trying to avoid traffic problems, like accidents and Chalila. So the line was Bakvish al tiyeh tzodek tiyeh chacham. That's actually it's a very deep line for.
Giving way maybe is.
Listen. Bakvish al tiyeh tzodek tiyeh chacham means you may be right that he shouldn't do this right now, right? Like from last night, my wife and I are trying to get out of a parking garage in Yerushalayim. There's a guy standing right in front of us, and he's just standing, and he's like staring at us, and he's not moving. Bina realized immediately the guy's shikker off his face. So I can be tzodek. What's the tzodek thing? Honk the horn, scream at him, tiyeh chacham, listen to your wife and say, he's just drunk. Don't make a mehuma. Like bakvish, tiyeh tzodek, al tiyeh tzodek, tiyeh chacham. Be wise. Now, it's more of a male thing that I always have to be right. I always have to be right. But this midah of looking at a bigger picture and realizing being right is not as important as being smart, as being wise, as being introspective and thinking about things in a much grandiose scale, right? Where does this come from? So this is a very important thing. ונראה כי את תכונת המסירות והנאמנות המושלמת, this aspect of having such mesirut, such dedication, a complete state of dedication, קיבלו בנות ישראל מרחל אימנו עליה השלום. We got it from Mama Rachel. And it's great to learn about her while she's still alive in the Parshias. And it's always great to learn about Mama Rachel when she's literally right behind us, laid to rest. Through her avodat kedosha, through her holy work. Hi chadira zot bahen ledorot olam. There's something that she did. Well, there's many things she did. That she put something in nishmas benos Yisrael, in the souls of the girls of Israel forever. שכן דבר זה היה סוד כוחה של רחל אימנו במסירות נפשה ללאה אחותה. We always daven that our children should get along with each other. When our children don't get along with each other, we instantly always think that we're, horrible thoughts about ourselves and parenting, v'chulei. This is all Amalek thoughts. Children, especially when they're in each other's faces all the time, and there could be competition between them subconsciously as well, they're bound to not always get along, right? But in the moments that they really get along, there's Gan Eden in the house. So not just that, but when there's moments when a child mamish gives up for another child, that is even in a higher moment. There's something, you can't put it into words, and I bless us all to experience this. I'm not going to say all the time because Mashiach isn't here yet, but to have moments like this that have an imprint on us, okay? So he's saying over here that what Rachel did for Leah, right? On that fateful night, when she vitra, when she gave up on, what did she give up on? I mean, lichora. What does it seem like she gave up on? When she gave the simanim to Leah, what did she give up on? Destiny. Everything. Love. Passion. Life. Everything. She gave it all up. Now Rashi helps us there and tells us what was the real reason that she gave it up. Do you remember what Rashi says?
She didn't feel embarrassed?
She didn't. Very good. She did not. She couldn't stomach for a second the notion that her sister would be embarrassed. Now why? Because they knew in that family what Lavan said was the truth, actually, meaning he was a conniving ramai, a cheat, but it was the minhag that you don't give the younger daughter before the older daughter. That was a truth, you know.
You could have said it earlier.
He definitely could have said it earlier. I mean, he could have helped us a lot. It's true, but Rachel and Leah knew that was the minhag habayit. Like they knew that, and Rachel is thinking to herself, for a second, if I don't do this, what's going to happen is that Leah is going to be humiliated by who? Who is going to be in front of who is she going to be humiliated? By Yaakov. By someone that she loved very much. And she didn't want the person that she loved to be the cause of hurting her sister. It's a whole, if you think about what went on in her head, the sensitivity that she had to the whole picture was incredible. But at the end of the day, who ends up going home alone? Rachel. Who ends up that night looking at Hashem and saying, I'm going to say something a little bit crazy now, but let's just take it for like what it is for our own sense and purposes. Rachel Imeinu, that faithful night, could look at Hashem and say, I'm sure you do a lot of good things for good people, but for me, you're a cruel God. To give me a taste of such love, from love at first sight, literally. That's how the Torah explains it. Mamish love at first sight. And then to say, you know what? It's not going to work. And you know who it's not going to work with? Your sister. There's nothing more, you know, it's bidyuk, like it's sakin bagav, you know, like sticking a knife in the back than that when it's your sister. And I always think about that night, about that Rachel Imeinu, that night when she was crying. And that midah that she had of giving up. Now, why did she do that? It wasn't only what Rashi says, obviously. She knew that there had to be a lot of sparks that Yaakov Avinu had to lift up from that home of Lavan. And he had to spend those 14 years there. It had to be. Couldn't have been just 7 years. She knew this. Prophetically, she knew this. And yet, she was willing to give up on all that just to be able to make sure that the bigger picture is still intact. But I'm sure there was still a tear in her heart that night. She was a human being, Rachel Imeinu. She had human feelings. Yes, she's Rachel Imeinu. She loved someone. And that night, she knows that her love of her life is going to be with her sister, this pashut lo yuman. You see, we have to stop sometimes and think about these things just a second more, even though we know this story since we're 3-4 years old and we read it every year in the parsha. But when you stop and inhale it and internalize it, you realize, you ask yourself, is that in my DNA too? Do I have something like that in my DNA? The ability to be mevateret. Now this is Chalila. I'm not saying over here, try to see if you can mevater on the love of your life for someone else. I get a lot, I told you in the beginning of the year, I get messages every day. I get a lot of messages that people that aren't sitting here and don't know Hebrew perfectly, and they miss one word, and then they think that I would say such an insane thing, like, if we really were holding, we would also give up on the, So I have to be very careful. That's not what I mean, but the midah of vatranut, the characteristic trait of being able to give up on that which may seem most precious to you for a much bigger reason, a man does not have that. That's not inherent in a man. The bichlal lo avodah shelo, it's not where he's holding. Unless he's really someone that's davuk b'shchina kedosha, but really this midah we find by Rachel Imeinu, by women. So I'm going to read this paragraph again. ונראה כי את תכונת המסירות והנאמנות המושלמת קיבלו בנות ישראל מרחל אימנו עליה שלום בעבודתה הקדושה, החדירה זאת בהן לדורות עולם. She gave this over for generations and generations to come. שכן דבר זה היה סוד כוחה של רחל אימנו. This was the secret of her strength when מסירות נפשה ללאה אחותה, when she gave over, כאשר נתנה לה את משוש ליבה המיועד לה, Yaakov Avinu Bechir Shebaavot, when she gave her love of her life to her sister. Ki begodel rachamea, and from the greatness of her rachamim, of her mercy, mitoch sheka'ava et ke'eva, she felt her pain. Lo yachla laset et cherpata, she couldn't stomach the busha that her sister was going to feel. שתצטרך לצאת מאוהל יעקב בבושת פנים. The Yaakov, that she would have to leave the tent of Yaakov, humiliated. She couldn't stomach it. ועמתה וויתרה על כל היקר לה, ועל כל עתידה במסירות נפש נפלאה. And she gave up on all that was precious to her, and her future. At that moment, she gave up on her future. Because at that moment, it wasn't clear to her that there would be some situation where she would actually end up marrying him and also be the mother of, at least, well, that's a whole nother parsha, how many children she has. But she had no idea she'd be the mother of Yosef and Binyamin. And in Binyamin, in Binyamin's chelek, in his portion, inheritance of the land, you know where Binyamin's chelek is? We literally know. I mean, it's an amazing thing. We have the region of Binyamin, but do you know where it extends to? Where in the Beit HaMikdash? Not all of Beit HaMikdash. Where in Beit HaMikdash? The Kodesh Kodashim. Yehuda starts right after that. Right, so we're in Yehuda. It's an amazing thing. She didn't know that when she did that night that's what would be, but that's what ended up happening. She didn't know that she'd end up being the great-great-grandmother of Mordechai HaYehudi. Mordechai was from Binyamin. She didn't know any of these things. She didn't see all that. See, if she saw all that and she gave it up, it'd be like, well, she knew good things were going to happen to her anyway. Shum davar. That night she gave it up, it was done for her.
It's like sacrifice.
Mamish.
The verb sacrifice, not like...
Right. It's an actual nachon. Well, now this is the whole thing. This ועמדה וויתרה מסרת הסימנים שנתן לה מתוך הקרבת, right, this finishing of the second bottom paragraph, מסרה לה את הסימנים שנתן לה מתוך, exactly what you said, הקרבה עצמית מוחלטת. She was in a state of complete and total sacrifice, ולא קנאה בה. And she wasn't jealous of her. She was in pain over not being with Yaakov, but she wasn't jealous of her. Now look, what's the whole point? Why is he bringing this whole thing? Tell me something, did Rachel have to do this? Was there a big mitzvah aseh, or lo ta'aseh, that she was fulfilling by giving the simanim over to Leah? Put it like this, and if she didn't give over those signs to Leah, and she ended up marrying Yaakov, would Hashem would have been angry at her?
Anger's the right word, but I don't know if she would have been in the category of, that's all how it should have been.
Would Hashem be upset with her? That's what I'm asking. No. There's no chiyuv. There was no obligation for her to do that. There was no mitzvah for her to do that. You understand? There was no obligation. This is what we're coming back to. And yet, we see that's not how we look at in the heart of things, in the deepest depths of things. That's not really how we look at a person's values. Like, were you someone that was committed to make sure you were yotzei all your obligations? This is the world of the Shechina, of the Nukva. It's not about that. It's about so much more than that.
It was her calling.
What's that?
It was her calling.
But right.
I would say that she would have missed, like, I don't know if anger is the right word, but like she would sin to her calling.
It was her potential. This is her potential.
Those are all, this is all Beina Levin Atzma. I'm talking about right now about a person that calls himself religious, is looking at this story. And we're asking the religious person, did Rachel have to do this? No. That's the answer. It's true, calling and all these things. It's usually not a person's calling to give up on the love of their life. Nachon? It's a calling on a much higher order of nature. But it's not someone's calling to take the love of their life and set it up that they end up with their sister. That's not a, that's a beyond level. Of course it was her inner calling, but the point over here that he's trying to make is that she wasn't stuck on fulfilling obligations or not. That's the point. Val, yeah, you want to say something?
Well, I'm just thinking that since Busha is akin to death in some ways, that it was sort of like Al Tamod Al Damreach, and that she couldn't, as it says here, that you couldn't bear the thought, because it was just like seeing the destruction of her sister.
That's very good. I happen to know plenty of people that ended up marrying people that they knew that others would be jealous of. So, what would we tell them?
She wouldn't have been intentionally humiliating her sister. It's just a situation that her sister would have been humiliated.
Correct.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
she didn't act.
Like meaning
Nachon.
humiliation would not have really been her fault. Or
It wouldn't have been on her.
Yeah.
She was humiliated from the reality, from the story, but not that she did something.
Right.
That's really what.
That is whether omission, just like.
No, I hear what you're
ignoring
saying.
the
It's a good
situation.
thing. This is a sugi on the Gemara. What's happening over here? No, but let's do this for a second. And you have to always use a thumb and start with if. Okay. If we say that lo tamod adam re'echa is results, you go over it, but when anyone can get insulted and embarrassed by your actions, then Rachel Imeinu really is at fault if she would have married Yaakov. But if you think about it, is that you can't live your life if that's the definition of lo tamod adam re'echa, because naturally it will be that if you just breathe and look nice, someone will get insulted. So we can't act like that, right?
Well, on a different level that she saw, was able to really understand deeply how it was going to affect not a random Joe on the street.
She's still not chayav.
I'm not saying she's.
That's all we're saying
I'm
today.
saying her different level, her higher level.
Still not. She's in love. Leah wasn't in love with
I
him.
didn't understand it when I learned it with Johnny, and I don't understand it now.
Was Leah in love with Yaakov? She just was freaked out by having to marry Esav. That's what we know from Chazal. But was Leah madly in love with Yaakov?
She grew to love him.
But it wasn't like, I think about Leah for a second. What about her on that fateful night? I'm sure she thought highly of Yaakov. I'm sure she thought very highly of Yaakov Avinu. But she also had to give up on something of like, the dream of like, I'll end up marrying someone that I know loves me. She couldn't say that. And we see that plays a role in the relationship throughout the story. There's also vatranut by her. There's also vatranut, oh, it's okay, you'll grow to love each other. He's in love with my sister. Do it. She also gave up. Meaning the whole midah here is about giving up. On both sides. I don't think he goes into that side of things. Because when we look at the story, we always think of Rachel being the one that gave up. But Leah gave up on the notion that every little girl says, one day Prince Charming's going to come and you're going to feel so special. That didn't happen with her. That's not her story. And it takes a long time for her to find her place in the world, Leah. Long time. So bottom paragraph, Val af shelo hayta mechoyevet badavar, עשתה את כל המעשה הנאצל שעשתה, כי לא יכלה למצוא מרגוע לנפשה, she was thinking of doing a million different things, but she couldn't find the margoa lanefesh, anything soothing to her soul. Ad shevitra la ala kol, until she came to this decision, I just have to give her these signs and let it be that she's the one that moves forward. And this whole world of her rachmanut and the yisurim that she went through, we see later on that she also, Chazal say also subconsciously, what else did she give up on? Much later in life, at death. What did she give up on? She gave up on being buried together with everyone else. In a very hard way for us to understand, in the last second of a shiur, she also gave it. When did she die? She dies when the Kodesh Kodashim comes into the world, meaning like her binyamin. Her whole thing in this world is that what people say would be picture perfect is not part of my chelek at all. And yet, how did we come back to Eretz Yisrael after 2,000 years of galus? Rachel mevaka al banea. So we'll continue more Bezrat. Is there shiur next week or no? On Thursday. There is shiur? Huh? We'll make it happen? So we'll continue Bezrat Hashem next week, taking this to the next level, but just to put this in the context, when a person that is in tune with this midah stands before Hashem and says, Ribbon Shleilim, please, Tfilas Nashim, what's going to stand in the way of that? What stands in the way of Mama Rachel's tears? And those are your tears, and your daughter's tears, and your mother's tears, and your sister's tears. And that's what Am Yisrael needs more than ever, to be approaching the throne of glory, so that only good news and prosperity can come on Am Yisrael and the rest of the world, B'ezrat Hashem. Okay, ambassadors, have an amazing day.